Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's The Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
It is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. Charles Darwin. Hello, my peak performers. How are you doing today? Welcome to episode 102 of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. I'm Heneka Watkis-Porter. Today's episode is with Pamela Wilson. Pamela is an award-winning designer and marketer, a keynote speaker, a 3-time author, and the founder of Big Brand System, where she helps people build online businesses they love. That's very, very important. Today, we are going to be talking about the key to innovative business ideas, and that's called cross-pollination. We'll talk so much about that. Welcome, Pamela. It's so good to have you on the Entrepreneurial You.
I am so glad to be here and very excited to be talking about this topic. It's one I feel very passionate about.
Absolutely. Before we get into that and you sharing your passion, have you ever had any Jamaican food?
Oh, yes.
What have you had?
I actually used to live on the Caribbean. I lived in Cartagena, Colombia.
Oh.
So that not the same as Jamaica at all, but some of the same ingredients like plantains and lots of beans and rice and fish and all of those things. So whenever I eat Jamaican food, I think about the time that I spent living on the Caribbean and how much I loved it. Jamaican food is amazing. I live in Nashville, Tennessee right now, and there's not really a place for me to find it. I need to look around to see if I can find some place, but I need to have Jamaican food in Jamaica. That's my next thing.
Yeah, you have to have it in Jamaica. And actually, Colombian food is amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it changes depending on the region, but the Caribbean region, the foods are very similar to what you find in the islands in the Caribbean. It's a lot of the same ingredients.
That's true. That's true. All right. So, of course, we were having our pre-interview chat, and I was kind of telling you how I came across an article that you wrote on copyblogger.com, and I found it interesting. And so our conversation today is going to be centered pretty much around that. You know, it's based on innovative business ideas and that cross-pollination, quote unquote, theory argument that you share in that post. So we thought it would be good to have a conversation with you on the Entrepreneurial You about that. So let's dive into the key to innovative business ideas. So we know that coming up with business ideas can be hard, and executing on it, of course, is even harder. Now, tell us about that as you've experienced.
I think part of what makes coming up with ideas challenging is that we always want our idea to be different and original. And when we are really deep within our industries, and maybe we have colleagues in our industries and we're reading content that's coming from people who are experts in our industries, it's very difficult to feel like we can be original in any way. And it can be very disheartening because we may feel like all the good ideas are already taken. Everything innovative has already been done. So this concept of cross-pollination can really help with that because you're pulling ideas from someplace different. You're stepping outside your own industry and looking for ideas elsewhere.
One of your subtitles says, look for love in all the wrong places. And I love your play on words, actually.
Yeah. I mean, the idea is to not saturate yourself with industry news and industry networking and just staying within your own little box, but it's to go outside and to find information from outside your usual sphere of influence. And it's when you look at things from a slightly different angle, or you look at what people are doing in completely different industries and think about how you could maybe adapt that idea to your own industry, that's when things start to get interesting.
We are actually in a period right now where everybody is talking about planning. You know, it's the beginning of the year and you need to be sticking to your core and so on. So you're actually recommending that we go against the grain, go against those events, those normal, I don't want to say mundane, but yes, perhaps mundane networking events that we've attended over the last couple of whatever period it is. And we keep going to these events in our niches. You're saying that perhaps if you're into online marketing, for example, perhaps you decide to go to an agri expo for argument's sake. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I'm saying. But you know what? It's a little bit like, since we talked about food, let's go with the food analogy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like adding spice to food, right? So you have your food that is providing your nutrition. So you have the things that you need to do within your industry. And I'm not saying to stop doing those things. What I think is interesting is if you add some spice that comes from elsewhere, right? So don't not go to industry conferences, attend them. But when you're making your plans, think about ways that, like you said, that you could go to an agribusiness conference or, a conference for an industry that is just a little bit outside of what you normally expose yourself to. And we can make this pretty easy. I mean, honestly, you can just visit websites that are outside of your industry. So you might visit a website that's all about the automotive industry. One thing that's happening within the automotive industry right now that's fascinating is some of the major car manufacturers are gearing up to completely remake their vehicles so they become electric rather than gasoline powered. And this is a huge change. So what can we learn from that? What can we learn from having to dismantle the way things have been done all along and reconfigure, market it differently, think about it completely differently? It's going to create a need for a new infrastructure. So if we take that whole situation and try to apply it to our own, what can we learn from that? So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's not, it could be conferences for sure, and it could be networking for sure, but sometimes it's just exposing yourself to ideas that are outside the usual realm of ideas that you kind of swim in.
So it's pretty much variety is the spice of life, right? As we are keeping it spicy and keeping it a food.
Yes, exactly. Variety is the spice of good business ideas, I believe.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. And we're not saying, you're randomly doing things. I mean, you're going to be having your stated outcome, whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish. You state that, have that at the very forefront of your mind so that wherever you're going, looking for ideas, it's not, just a random thing, but it's carefully thought through, having an objective, and so you can measure whether your objective has been met.
Yes, absolutely. If we stick with our cooking analogy, it's sort of like you're not going to add garlic to your cake, right? I don't think. Anyway.
I don't think so, right?
Maybe there's cake with garlic, but I haven't found it yet. So it's looking for a spice that makes sense. It's kind of going into it with an intention. I want to make an amazing cake. So where can I go and find some ideas about cake that are just different than what I'm used to?
Exactly. So the very beginning, set your intention. And then you talked about keep the innovative ideas flowing. How do we do that?
Well, I think a lot of this is about how you can set yourself up so that this doesn't become just a one-time thing. So the idea is not that you look at different websites maybe once for one day. It's to keep this kind of cross-pollination going on an ongoing basis in your business. And sometimes it's getting together with business owners who are in different industries. Are you familiar with mastermind groups?
Oh, yes, definitely.
They're amazing, right?
Yes, they are. Yes.
It's really, I've been in the same mastermind group I've been in a mastermind group, I should say. It's changed a little bit and morphed over the years, but since 2004. So that's a long time.
It is. And 15 years ago.
Yes. And it has been transformative for my business because on an ongoing basis, I have met with people who are outside of my industry, and you put one of the important components of a mastermind group is you show up at the group meetings with a problem or a challenge that you're dealing with, and you kind of lay it on the table. You explain it to people and say, this is what I'm dealing with. Let's brainstorm around it. And when you have people at the table or the virtual table who are from different industries and just bring different life experience to that table, they will come up with ideas that you never would have come up with on your own because they just have a different view about things. So I think mastermind groups or any kind of, in the article we're talking about, I called it an informal board of directors.
Exactly.
So that's the idea, is that you have these people who have different ideas and they can help you see things from different angles. That can be super important.
So we keep the ideas flowing, through Mastermind. Mastermind is just one of the great ways that we can get ideas, as we try and innovate, because that's the whole idea. Well, pun intended. That's the whole idea of coming up with an idea, because you really want to, innovate. You don't want to be doing more of the same. You want to be doing things differently so that you can have an edge on the competition, because, you're not operating in a vacuum. You're operating with competition. And so it's important. What are some of where are some of the other places we can, go for ideas?
Well, nowadays in the world we live in, you and I haven't met in person yet, but here we are talking by Skype. So there are ways that you can get these kinds of innovative ideas and cross-pollinate virtually. You can have these conversations over Skype. I actually have a community. It's called the Big League, and that's part of my big brand system. And that's exactly what we do within that community. Is we've got people from all walks of life who are in that community. And the one common thread that they all have is that they're trying to build online businesses. So there are people from, business consultants to physical therapists to energy healers and yoga teachers, musicians, website developers. So everybody brings a slightly different expertise and view of the world and a view of business. And what's amazing is even just within the forum, people will post a challenge and somebody from a completely different area of expertise will come in and give them advice about their challenge. And so that kind of cross-pollination can even happen in a forum environment if you find a community. It can be really, really amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how sometimes what you have or what you believe to have, is a major challenge, and you share it with someone, and you find, oh my gosh, they gave you an idea for a solution in such a short time. Like, why did I not think about this all along,
Yes, absolutely. And I think it makes such a difference to just have a place to share those things, because one of the reasons I developed that community is, I say to people, a lot of us who are building online businesses feel like we're operating from solitary confinement. Like we're just in this little, right? We're just in this little room and we don't have a way to ask questions when we get stuck. And like you said, your problem can start to feel really, really big when you're working on your own and you don't reach out. So I think you're right. I think reaching out can make such a difference, because it alleviates you from having that burden. And then a lot of times you get an answer in 15 minutes and then you can move forward. So it makes a huge difference.
You know what happened to me? Like, this is the weirdest thing, because during the Christmas holidays, I recognize on Christmas Eve, I got an email from Apple to say that my podcast has been removed, and it was for some breach. Yeah, it was for some breach that I had no idea. This is Christmas Eve, And I had no idea what to do.
Send that email.
I had no idea what to do. Right. And so I went to, a Facebook community group that I'm a part of, She Podcast. And by the time I got there and lay my situation in the group, in no time, I was able to find the resolve and reach back out to Apple. And, in 2 days or so, my podcast was reinstated. And that was I was in panic mode because this is my thing, and so it just underscores the point that you just made, and the point that I alluded to as well, that you have a problem and you think it's so huge, and then you put it out to somebody else and it wow, it gets solved in a moment's notice. So that's the beauty of community.
Right. And it's also, I wonder if when you shared that problem, people said, oh yeah, they do that sometimes.
Yeah. Other persons had the same problem. I thought I was special,
Right. You thought you were being singled out, right? You thought that they were picking on you on Christmas Eve. And somebody probably said, oh yeah, that's just something that happens sometimes. And so that's the other thing that's amazing about community is that people can put things in perspective in an instant. You just realize oh, okay, well, this is a problem that has a solution. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to enjoy my holiday.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it happens. Small business, big ideas. That's another of the point, the caption that you had in your article.
We were talking about different areas of expertise. So my area of expertise really has been marketing. My entire career, I've spent more than 3 decades at this point, helping people market their ideas, market their businesses, market their programs, events, all of these things. So marketing is my thing. And in the world of marketing, the only way you can really stand out is if you have a big idea that is unique. So you position yourself differently than everyone else, and you have a solution that no one else offers. And that's one of the smartest things that you can do for your business. So that's one of the reasons that I wrote this article, because cross-pollination is a fantastic way to arrive at one of those kinds of ideas, an idea that just is slightly different than what everyone else is doing. And that will position you beautifully so that your marketing has a very unique voice that's memorable. And that's what we need in today's world. We need to be memorable.
And the fact that we have small businesses and we're running small businesses, it's, you're right. We don't have to have small ideas, our business right now perhaps is defined in terms of our resources, or finances and human resource, etc. But it does not have to be limited, by ideas.
Absolutely. I always say to people, if you don't have the marketing budget of Coca-Cola, what do you have to do? You have to come up with an idea that everyone will remember, because you don't have millions to put behind this idea where you're going to reinforce it on every type of media so that people don't forget it. You don't have that. You're a small business. I'm a small business. A lot of us operate in that world where we don't have millions to put behind an advertising budget that basically forces the idea on people. So what we have to do is we have to come up with an idea that people say, oh, that's a great idea. And they just remember it because they want to remember it because it's unique.
And as we're talking about ideas, one of the things I like to say is that we're living in the best of times, right? Everything. And I think because of that, sometimes we take it for granted because everything that we need is literally at our fingertips, right? So we have enough. Right. I mean, it's like you go to the internet and it's almost like you're going into a black hole because there's just so much there. It's just now for us to know how to, effectively search, understand how to search via Google. And as we have that base knowledge, as we have that base information, to let that be also a spark for an even better idea or an even bigger idea.
Right. Absolutely. I think so much of what we need to do nowadays is to filter out what we're seeing online so that we really are kind of not overexposing ourselves to all the information that's out there. And we're sort of filtering or cultivating the information that we end up spending time with. Otherwise, like you said, it's like a black hole, or sometimes people call it a rabbit hole, like you fall down the internet rabbit hole, right? Where, you go looking for something and then 45 minutes later, you're on this tab and you're saying, how did I get here? How did I end up here? I don't even know how I ended up here. So, and it's a tremendous waste of time, but it's also a tremendous waste of like mental resources that we could be really focusing on our own businesses and our own ideas. So you don't want to just give away that attention to someone who hasn't really earned it, right?
You go to one link looking for something and it takes you to another. It's also good, this is a different point, but it is also good for us to like set a set timeline that we want to spend researching a particular thing. So if we're going to spend an hour, that's it. But you know that you're not good. When it gets to an hour, you stop, so you have that limited time to search for what you want. Otherwise you get lost and you don't want to do that.
That is a great idea. When you do that, do you set a timer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's a great idea. It's a great idea. It's like, okay, time to close all those tabs and get to work.
Get to work. Another thing too, even as we're exploring ideas and so on, because these are ideas too that we can implement. So let me tell you what happens when I don't schedule. When I don't schedule, then I find myself feeling guilty because I'm spending this amount of time on X when I should be spending, I think, a similar amount of time on Y. But when I schedule, my mind is at ease because I know that, I'm not cheating any of my projects because I did set time to spend on this, and until this time finishes, then, I only get concerned if I go over the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have been finished with this already.
I think that's a great way to handle it. And like you said, I mean, your mind is in a place where you're at ease. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're doing your best work when you're feeling that way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We've been having a great conversation, Pamela. I like the whole idea of this, the idea of talking about idea, playing on this word. Yeah. Is there any final thoughts, just to wrap this up before you share your contact details as well as any resources that you have available that our peak performers can be a part of? So kind of take us to a close with any final thoughts.
Well, it's funny. You asked me to share a resource, and between the time you asked me to share a resource and today, I developed a new resource. And it fits perfectly with this conversation because the new resource shows people how businesses get built. And I divided it into 4 stages, and it comes in the form of a roadmap. And the roadmap is a single sheet of paper. And this sheet of paper actually has a checklist. So you can sort of see what stage you're in and what you need to try to accomplish in that stage before you move on to the next one. And the beauty of this checklist is that when you are aware of what stage you're in, you can basically eliminate 75% of your to-do list and of the things that are distracting you and the things online that want you to pay attention to them. Because if you don't need them for that particular stage, you can just, like you said, I have time reserved for this. I will do this later. I'm not going to worry about it right now. And you just focus on the stage you're in.
Absolutely.
So the best place to find that is to just go to bigbrandssystem.com and people will find this roadmap. It's featured very prominently on the site. If for some reason someone is listening to this 5 years from now and they can't find it, I created a short link so they can find it at bigbrand.info/roadmap. And that will always take them to the page where they can sign up for it. And I'll send it right to them. And people have loved it so far. I think it's been helpful and it's been kind of like a relief because it takes a lot of things off your plate, which is nice.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see that. I want to put my hand on it as well. So thanks for that. I have been having this conversation, this amazing conversation, spending time with Pamela Wilson, an award-winning designer and marketer, keynote speaker, author, founder of Big Brand System. So you've given us your website information. Do you want to also share your social media handles as well so that persons can connect with you there?
The best way to find those actually is to just go to my website because they're all different. And so I'm afraid if I rattled them off on the podcast, it's not going to make a lot of sense, but they're all on my website. So if people just go to bigbrandsystem.com, they can definitely find all the different places to connect with me right on the website.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pamela. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
This has been delightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my peak performers, for tuning in to this episode with Pamela Wilson. I look forward to connecting with you next week. In the meantime, please subscribe, rate, and review The Entrepreneurial You if you have not yet done so, and also connect with me on social media at Heneka Watkis-Porter. Remember, you were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. What good?